What is going on, everyone? Mets Talk with Hayden. I hope everyone is doing extremely well today. Besides the Mets, I would say I'm doing pretty well. No major complaints with me. Hope everyone is doing extremely well. Sorry about that. Just gotta readjust the Mets hat. I know for once in the stream I'm wearing a Mets hat, so hopefully no one complains about me wearing a Twins hat or any other hat of some sort. But yeah, hopefully everyone is doing extremely well today. I am most certainly doing well today. In today's stream, we are going to be going over the ugly New York Mets and Pittsburgh Pirates series summary, pretty much summarizing the good, the bad, and the ugly. Emphasis on the bad and the ugly for the most part. Then, of course, we are going to be previewing the New York Mets and the New York Yankees Subway Series preview. So we're going to be previewing what to expect from both the Mets and the Yankees when it comes to the pitching, the offense, and both of those teams overall. That's going to be a pretty interesting series, a series without Judge and Alonso. So yeah, that'll be the first time that'll be the first time in quite a while that we've seen that. And then, of course, we are going to be going over your guys' comments, questions, concerns, really anything related to the New York Mets and yeah, I guess all of that great stuff. So if you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, feel free to drop them in the comment section below. And I guess let's stop wasting any more time and let's dive into it. But before we dive into that, please, everyone, smash that like button, turn on those post notifications, tell your friends about this channel. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything related to the New York Mets or any other 29 baseball teams, feel free to drop it in the comment section below. Otherwise, yeah, let's stop wasting any time and let's dive into that Mets and Pirates series. So getting into game one, which was Friday's game. The New York Mets lost this game by a score of 14-7. And, of course, the 2023 Mets find a way to score 7 runs and still manage to lose the ball game. Pretty ugly. Getting started with the starting pitching, Tyler McGill was on the bump, and McGill with another shit outing, big surprise. We are going to be discussing Tyler McGill a lot. Sorry, I have a little bit of allergies, or I'm just sick from the Mets. McGill, 3 2/3 of an innings pitched, 8 hits, 7 runs, 3 walks, and a strikeout. So, yeah, McGill did not have a good outing. I mean, obviously, you could tell by that slash line, horrible. And I think what you're starting to see with Tyler McGill now is that stride. His stride is much shortened than what it was last year. And you saw in the Toronto series, the game before this, he had that better stride, and he only gave up 1 run. And, yeah, I really think it's that stride. Point blank simple. I mean, Tyler McGill is a 6'7", 6'8" right-handed pitcher. He's a big dude. And I think if you look at it like that, he is a guy that has good drop on his fastball. And he needs, I guess simply enough, when it comes down to Tyler McGill, he's a 6'7", 6'8" righty who's throwing 16 to 18 inches of drop on his fastball. And I don't know who pushed him to make the adjustment on his release point and his stride. Probably Hefner, and that's why I think Jeremy Hefner is an idiot. DeGrom's not here, so I don't see why people love Hefner anymore. But yeah, stride is much shortened. The stride is much more short since they destroyed the release point, and a 6'8", whatever height he is, right-handed pitcher should not be working vertically. It's not like he's bridging it in with a cutter or a secondary pitch. He's just been looking horrible, and those are the reasons why. He looks like a completely different pitcher, and he is a completely different pitcher. Whether it's his velocity, whether it's what he throws, his arsenal, he's a completely different pitcher to last year, and that is a huge, huge issue. So, yeah, when it comes to McGill, I think it's time to send him down. I'm done going out there, throwing McGill, 3 1/3, 4 innings, giving up 6 runs, because then it puts pressure on this Mets offense to score runs, and it obviously has a trickle-down effect, because then, it goes to your bullpen, and, your bullpen arms are already fatigued enough and overtaxed. So, it's you can't have that. So, I love what McGill's done in 2021 and 2022, but yeah, I just think the adjustments have made him a horrible pitcher. And, I hope he can try and get back into his old groove, but I don't have any confidence in Tyler McGill right now. With that said, Mets bullpen came in bright and early, and they had to carry some innings. Zach Muckenherm, I believe that's how you pronounce that last name. He came in 2 1/3, 6 hits, 3 runs, a walk, a strikeout. Crappy outing for him. And then Tommy Hunter came in for his last outing as a New York Met before he got DFA'd. 2 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, 2 strikeouts. Tommy Hunter is posting an ERA near the federal minimum wage, so that is not very good. So Mets pitching by far had a horrible outing. 14 runs, 17 hits, and an error. In terms of the offense, you scored 7 runs, and obviously a lot of that was later in the game, but unfortunately, the damage was already done. Obviously, in the second inning, Mark Vientos has an RBI single to center to bring in Jeff McNeil. In the third inning, Francisco Lindor has a solo homer to left. And then in the ninth inning, they tried to rally, but obviously it was a huge lead, so it was impossible. But Mark Vientos had an RBI ground out to bring in Mark Canha. Francisco Alvarez had an RBI single to left to bring in Escobar. Tommy Pham had an RBI double to right to bring in Alvarez and Beatty. And then Luis Guillorme had an RBI double to bring in Tommy Pham. And that's all she wrote. The Mets go down and lose game 1, 14-17. A very ugly game for this Mets pitching staff. McGill, 7 runs, Muckenherm, 3 runs, and Hunter, 2 runs. So by far a very ugly game that continued for the Mets. Going into game 2, well, the Mets turned it around for the most part. Not really. But they win this game by a score of 5-1. Kodai Senga on the mound for the New York Mets. And we know Senga has had some very big complexities pitching on the road this year. But no, he debunked that. As Senga went out there and had arguably one of the best starts of his season so far. 7 innings, 2 hits, 4 walks, 6 strikeouts. And you know what? I wouldn't say it was one of his best outings. It was a very good outing, regardless of the walks and the pitch count. I would argue this was a very, very, very strong outing from Senga. The ghost fork ball was nice. Fastball mixed in and was very nice. A decent amount of ground balls. We saw the 6 strikeouts. I said 4 walks. I think the walks are still a little bit of a concern. Obviously, Senga got bailed out big time in the 4th inning. When bases loaded, no outs. Brandon Nimmo, I don't think it would have been a home run. Could have been a bases clearing double, but Brandon Nimmo made a spectacular catch to really save the Mets and Kodai Senga from at least giving up 3 runs, arguably 2. So tip of the cap to that. Senga had good defense behind him. But Senga's been a guy who really has been stepping it up lately. I know the biggest concern for me with Kodai Senga, besides the walks and the command, was pitching on the road. We know that the splits when he pitches on the road are not very good. And this was his best outing on the road by far, maybe besides Miami in the beginning of the season. But yeah, a definitely much needed outing. And we see a quality start. And what happens when the Mets pitchers throw quality starts? Well, they win ball games. This Mets pitching staff is like 8-0 when a starter goes 7 innings and 16-1 when a starter goes 6 innings? Is it? It's not that hard to understand. Following that, David Robertson came in for an inning, giving up a hit, 2 strikeouts, and then Ottavino to close it off, an inning and a strikeout. So yeah, the Mets pitching staff only limiting this Pirates team to a hit and 3 runs. Mets pitching staff was on fire, and like we see, I cannot emphasize enough, when this starting pitching can go 7 innings, can go 6 innings, if they can go deep into games, it helps your bullpen out tremendously. Why? Because you saw Senga, 7 innings. The 8th went to Robertson, 9th went to Ottavino. You could have even seen it where maybe Rayleigh got the 8th, Robertson got the 9th, or whatever. But if your starters are only going 4 or 5 innings, well, that means you're going to see your Stephen Nago Sucks and Dominic Leone Craps and other bums of the world. And that's an issue. I don't want to see Drew Smith coming into games. I don't want to see Dominic Leone. I know Nago Suck got DFA'd, but it's the point I'm trying to make is I don't want to see pitchers like that coming into games and jeopardizing it. We saw it with the Braves series, and look what happened. So a very much needed win for this New York Mets team. Obviously, they were really, really hoping to try and continue, but they couldn't. But in terms of this offense, 5 runs, and it's a good amount of runs. That's what this team has heavily been relying on. An average good offense and a really good pitching staff. But, they're very inconsistent. So you're not getting both at once. And today you did. So getting things off in the 3rd inning, Brandon Nimmo had an RBI single to left to bring in Tommy Pham. Heading on into the 7th inning to crack this game open for the Mets, Mark Canha had an RBI double to center to bring in Guillorme and Marte. Heading on into the 8th inning, Francisco Alvarez hits a home run to left center, 410 feet for his 12th homer of the year. And then Mark Canha, with some more insurance in the 9th inning, has an RBI double to right to bring in Tommy Pham. So, yeah, I mean, we see this Mets offense definitely played very well this game. 5 runs, 8 hits. When they got guys in scoring position, they hit. When they had 2 outs, they hit. You saw a mixture, just fundamental baseball, pass the baton. You saw some extra base hits from Canha, a home run from Alvarez. And that's what this team really relies on. So, Mets win this game 5-1. Senga with his 6th win on the season. But getting into game 3, the final game of this 3-game set, the rubber game match, the Mets go in and, well, they couldn't win it. Big surprise. As the Mets lose this game by a score of 2-1. Carlos Carrasco, 4 2/3 innings pitched, 6 hits, 2 runs, 3 walks, and a strikeout. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a horrible outing, but it wasn't a great outing for Carrasco. Obviously could not get to that 5th inning mark, which was very unfortunate. Made the bullpen come into play, and, the bullpen did pretty good. Josh Walker came in for an inning and a third, giving up a hit and a strikeout. He obviously got into a little bit of a jam, bases loaded, but was able to get out of it. It wasn't in his, though. He inherited it from Carrasco. So tip of the cap to Josh Walker. He's been pretty good so far. They called him up. I'd like to see him stay on this roster. Drew Smith came in for an inning, giving up a hit, 2 strikeouts. And then Brooks Raley for an inning, giving up a walk and 3 strikeouts. So, I mean, as you could see, like I said, pitching staff did pretty well today. It's just the offense couldn't contribute. You only scored 1 run, 3 hits, and that 1 run was in the 4th inning from a solo Jeff McNeil homer to right. And that was it. Otherwise, your offense was quiet. You only had 3 hits, 1 from Canha, 1 from McNeil, and 1 from Pham. Otherwise, everyone else was quiet. And that's how this season has pretty much been going, kind of. Don't get me wrong. There's going to be games where your offense is dead. I mean, look at the Dodgers, look at the Yankees, look at the Astros, look at the Rays. They have games where they can only score 1 or 2 runs. But, with considering how your starting pitching goes, yeah, you're going to need your offense to score as many runs as possible. And, I mean, we saw it in the Braves series. I mean, you scored 10 runs and you still managed to lose. So, only the 2023 Mets, of course. But, Carrasco gets the L. Otherwise, the Mets just could not hit Mitch Keller. He was dealing. He threw a quality start. And, that's really all she wrote. So Mets take 1 of 3 in Pittsburgh. Very disappointing. But now the Mets are hoping to try to turn things around. Obviously, expectations are not very high. I don't think morale is very high. But that is because the Subway Series is here. The classical New York rivalry, as the New York Yankees are coming to Citi Field to play the New York Mets in a 2-game set. They're going to be very interesting to see how that boils down. Game 1 is tonight at 7:10 Eastern Standard Time. Luis Severino versus Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer is definitely going to need to have a good outing. Obviously, his last outing in Atlanta wasn't bad. It was confusing. He had the 10 strikeouts, but gave up the 5 runs. So, I mean, we'll see. Hopefully, Scherzer can continue to battle on. His last 5 games, he's 4-0. So you'd like to see him make that 5-0 in his last 6 games. But looking at Max Scherzer so far this season, Scherzer is 5-2 with a win-loss record, an ERA at 3.71, a 1.33 WHIP. Obviously, it's a little bit of a short sample size, but in 21 and a third. Oh no, sorry, that's I was reading Severino's numbers. My apologies. With that said, Max Scherzer is 5-2 on the season, a 3.71 ERA, a 1.118 WHIP, 53 and a third innings pitched, 59 strikeouts. Yeah, sorry, I was reading Severino's numbers. I was about to say 20 innings. Wait a second, that doesn't seem right. But yeah, my apologies about that. But yeah, obviously looking with Scherzer, big thing is keep the slider intact, keep the fastball intact, the 2 basic pitches that he really has had. But yeah, essentially that is going to be the thing for Scherzer. And it's sad that I have to sit here and ask for your aces to go out there and, I guess essentially throw a quality start. I'm not asking much from Max Scherzer. All I am asking is for Max Scherzer to go out there and give you 6-7 innings of 1 or 2 run baseball. That's all I am asking for. And it's sad that I'm sitting here, requesting and praying that's what he could do. So, yeah, we're really going to have to just go on and, see how that goes for Max Scherzer. Obviously, for Luis Severino, he doesn't have the best numbers so far this season. Short sample size. He's returning from injury, but the last couple outings, he definitely has been alive and dominating. So yeah. So we're gonna have to see how that goes. Obviously, getting into Game 2, tomorrow night's game, which is also a 7:10 Eastern Standard start, or 7 o'clock. My apologies. This will be a definitely interesting matchup, but we'll see. Obviously, the New York Yankees will have their ace in Garrett Cole. Cole is having a phenomenal season for them. And then for the New York Mets, they will have Justin Verlander. Verlander has been pretty bad since his start in New York. Obviously, 2-3 on the season, 4.85 ERA, 1.33 WHIP. Verlander obviously really only had 2 or 3 good outings so far this season. I mean, the Cleveland series, or the Cleveland game, the Reds game, and I want to say that's really it. He's been looking horrible this year. You saw the Braves series, he choked. Verlander needs to get it together. Point blank simple. He needs to get it together. If Verlander goes out there, Citi Field, 4 innings and gives up 6 runs, he is going to get booed off that pitcher's mound. And I mean, I don't blame the fans. He's been absolutely horrible. I get it. He returned from injury, but it's been about 2 months now. Verlander needs to start picking it up. We can't, see him, getting a high pitch count in 5 innings or giving up home runs and walks, these 2-out walks. Cannot have that. So, fans are going to start to get very frustrated with Justin Verlander. He needs to figure it out. And then obviously for the New York Yankees, they will have Garrett Cole, their ace. And yeah, Garrett Cole has been having a phenomenal season for the New York Yankees. Just, I guess, briefly touching at Garrett Cole so far this season, 2.84 ERA, 1.14 WHIP, a lot of strikeouts, doesn't walk a whole lot of guys, doesn't give up a whole lot of home runs. 85 and 2/3 innings pitched this season. So, he's definitely going out there and dealing. When it's his day, he's going out there, he's going deep into games. And that's what you ask for. That Cole's kind of been, a bipolar, inconsistent player with the Yankees. But yeah, right now, point blank simple, he's getting the job done. He is getting the job done. And that's what this Yankees team could ask for when they don't have Rodon. Severino is, been a little rough. Herman's been a little rough. So Cole is really carrying this Yankees rotation. Obviously looking at this series, like I said, no Aaron Judge, no Pete Alonso. So it's going to be an interesting Subway series. Obviously the Yankees lost the most recent series to the Red Sox 1-3. Mets lost the most recent series to the Pirates 1-3. So, like I said, both of these teams are hoping to try and get back on track. Yankees are doing well, so I shouldn't say that. Yankees are 38-29, 17-12 on the road, which is pretty good to see. The away metrics pretty good. Mets are 31-35, 15-12 on the road. So yeah, if you're the Mets, this is a very big series for you guys. All right, well, I shouldn't say you guys. For us, this is a very big series for the Mets. You could split it, you could sweep it, or you could go 0-2. You could either be 31-37, 32-36, 33-35. It's that simple. And I think right now, the Mets control their own destiny with this series. And it's very frustrating that I have to come on here and pray and hope that the 2 aces for this New York Mets team who are getting paid $80 million can go out there and give me 6-7 innings of baseball with maybe 2 runs. I'm not asking for a lot. That's not a lot to ask for. But right now, it seems like it's the world to ask for. I'm more confident with Scherzer right now. Obviously, Scherzer is a very interesting character. he's a guy who grinds. He's very competitive, Max Scherzer. I have more trust in Scherzer than Verlander. Scherzer, we've seen him turn it around. His last 5 games, he's 4-0. He's looked good. The Braves series, that was weird. He got the 10 strikeouts, but then he also got roughed up towards the end, taken out a little too late. Point is, Scherzer is a competitor. Scherzer is this psychopath guy in a good way where, if he was pitching bad, he would cut off his arm if it made him pitch good. And he would learn to pitch lefty. I mean, he's just a complete competitor who just dials in. Where if you look at Verlander right now, he looks weak. I mean, and I hate to come on here and say that, but I mean, what confidence do you have in Justin Verlander right now? So when it comes down to it, this is a big series. I think by far, if this offense can go out there and score you 5 runs, I would hope they could win both of these games. But as of right now, my predictions, I think they're going to go 0-2. I don't see the confidence with this team. You have tonight, you have Scherzer and Severino. Say what you want about Severino. He's been dialed in the last 3 starts. I think it'll be a close game. And I think the Yankees are just a good baseball team with power. They're a big power team, run creation team where, compared, like I said, the Braves too. Power home run team. And you look at this Mets team and what's the difference between the Yankees and Braves versus the Mets? Well, the big difference is the Mets are a team that constantly has to manufacture runs. And in 2023 baseball, that does not work. I've said it 1,000 times. This team cannot continue to manufacture runs and watch their opponents score runs via the long ball. It's that simple. So, sooner rather than later, they're going to have to pick things up. I really hope. The point of this series, Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer. Those are the 2 guys that are going to pretty much determine it. You don't have Alonso. The Yankees don't have Judge, so I guess they're kind of evening out on that. But McNeil is going to need to play well. Nimmo is going to need to play well. Alvarez is going to have to continue and play well. Lindor. I know a lot of you guys think I'm very anti-Lindor, but it's hard to defend him right now. Obviously, you're looking at Francisco Lindor so far this season. The home runs are there, the RBIs are there, but nothing else is there. The on-base percentage is garbage. The average is garbage. The OPS is garbage. The strikeout rate is through the roof, much worse, career worse. He looks very lost to the plate. I don't know why he bats lefty. If you look at the metrics of him batting lefty versus righty, he's a god at the right-hand side. And I don't know why Jeremy Barnes and this Mets coaching staff lets him. If I was on the Mets coaching staff, I'd say, no, you're not batting lefty. It's interesting to think about. But, Lindor, wants to be this captain or, inspirational guy. Well, I haven't seen it so far this season. Besides that Guardians walk-off, what have we seen? And you can tell Lindor is really starting to get in his head. This whole team is starting to get in their head, if you notice. You're seeing a lot of sloppy defense lately from this team. 10 errors in the last 10 games. This team is starting to get very sloppy. And I think it's because they're starting to get in their heads. I think the chemistry and the morale of this team has really gone down. And you're seeing guys like Lindor making errors that prevents the inning ending double play from happening. And then you give up 5 runs afterwards because he's more focused on his Gucci glove or his glasses. They need to get it the fuck together. And sorry for the language, but they do. Lindor wants to be the captain. Go out there and play well. Defense, great, but hit the ball. If he's going to go 0 for 4 or 1 for 4, captain my ass. I'm sorry. But when your team is struggling, it's the captain. No, I don't want to say captain, but the leader. The leader's job to go out there and play well. And it's not that I don't like Lindor, but I think there's other guys in this team who qualify more as a leader than Lindor. Pete Alonso, Brandon Nimmo. McNeil was playing well. I'd say him. You saw, look at Alonso. The Rays series. You're down, and look what happened. And then you see Lindor loading out of the dugout. But regardless of that, just putting a cap before we get into your guys' comments and questions. Mets, Yankees, I think they're going to go 0-2. I think the Yankees are going to come in hot, and I think they're going to sweep the Mets. I hate to say it. I don't want to see it. I would love them to split it or go 2-0, but just right now with this team, they don't have any expectations, and I just don't have trust in this team right now to establish that. So, yeah. So now let's get into some of your guys' comments, questions, concerns. Like I said, if you guys have any comments, if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop it in the comment section below, and we will dive into it. So what is going on, everyone? Hope everyone is doing well. Mark's here. How's it going? I see we got 12 people in the chat, so keep it up. Ryan, what's going on? Trey, how's it going? Captain Morgan, Alex, Baseball Media says, when does football start? Yeah, I mean, I think you and I are on a similar page, man. Seth, what's going on? Absolutely. Subway Series time. Logan, what's going on? He says, I'll be at tonight's game. Nice, man. Hopefully you have fun. Cal, what's going on? Kobe says, hey, Hayden, what's up? Rough week for the Mets. On to the Subway Series. Yeah, it's really all you could do at this rate. Yeah, I mean, Trey with a very interesting question says, can the Mets make the playoffs? And I mean, sure. I mean, I think really half the teams in Major League Baseball can right now. Obviously, you look at the expanded playoffs and, that definitely helps out the Mets case much more. If it was, 2-3 years ago before you had that, yeah, I'd be much more concerned. But like I said, coming this trade deadline, it's going to be huge. And Epler, we've been seeing talks of Epler on the hot seat. David Stearns has been relevant. But, I mean, Trey, I hate to come on here and give you this boring, vague answer, but I don't know. It's that simple. It's not like, there's a possibility, this team is more than capable of turning it around. You look at this team statistically on paper, they're a great team, but everyone is underperforming. With the exclusion of Francisco Alvarez, Brandon Nimmo, and Pete Alonso, I'd argue. Cal says the Mets need to get fired up and change their culture and chemistry ASAP before it's too late. And exactly. I mean, Cal, that's 100%. I mean, right now this team, and no one looks very happy. They show the dugout, during the game, and everyone's just sitting there gloating, and they don't look happy. You see Lindor, even in 2021 when he was horrible. Lindor's worse this year besides the home runs and RBIs, but you see him strike out, he'd go back to the dugout and start goofing off with Baez. You don't see him do that now. You see him, he goes to that dugout and he sits on the iPad and he just frowns. So, yeah. And, I question it. Alex raises the point. Well, what's the next step after a closed-door meeting? Obviously, Buck Showalter and some of the Mets coaching staff had a closed-door meeting, after the Braves series, after they got swept. And, well, how did that go? You lost the next game in Pittsburgh. You won a game in Pittsburgh and then lost a game in Pittsburgh. So you essentially lost the Pirates series. So what did that meeting do? So really, what comes next? And I think it comes down to the lack of sense of urgency from this team. I don't see much urgency from this Mets coaching staff, from Buck Showalter. We see his press conferences, and he says he's proud of these guys after getting swept in Atlanta. And accountability. Start taking accountability. And we saw Lindor, and I respect Lindor for that. He was accountable. Game 1 of the Pirates series, he made that error and later gave up 5 runs because of it. He was accountable. He said, I should have made it, and the run scored because of me. He was accountable. See, a lot of other guys in this team who bullshit. Oh, I just didn't feel well tonight. My lat or my shoulder was a little off, so maybe that affected. Accountability is huge. And I really question what's next. Someone needs to fire up this team. And I've been saying it for a month and a half. Fire up this team. I don't care if it's an ejection. I don't care if I don't care if 5 players get ejected in the game. I don't care if there's a benches clearing brawl, a fight. Someone needs to go off. Because right now, nothing's working. Press conferences, the post-game shows are a joke. It's shit that we already know. The pitching is inconsistent. The offense is inconsistent. Both of them cannot connect at the same time. Your starters are not going deep into games. You only arguably have 2 relievers in this bullpen you could trust. This team is now hitting for power and still managing to lose. They need to change things up now. And I'm not saying, reconstruct the coaching staff, but someone needs to, Showalter needs to light a fire under some of these guys. When Marte is and Pham and Narvaez are running very slow to the ball and allowing an extra run to score, he needs to go, when they go to the dugout, when that inning's over, he needs to sit down with them and go off on them. He needs to be benched. They need to be benched. Look at it. White Sox. They're still crappy, but they were doing historically horrible to start off the season. Luis Robert walked out, arguably, not even ran. A really, really light dribbler to the third baseman would have been safe if if anyone just ran it out, but he just walked it out, and he was thrown out. Well, what happened? He got benched, and the White Sox coaching staff went off on him. Ever since, he's been on a tear. You need to go off on these guys. You saw it, 2019, Brody Van Wagenen, right? And listen, say what you want about Brody, about him as a GM, but at least he cared. At least he showed he cared. Unlike Billy Epler, we haven't seen any, sense of urgency or careness. Billy Epler trusts this lineup. He trusts this roster, and let him. Because right now, this isn't a World Series roster. This isn't even a playoff caliber roster. Guys like Drew Smith and Dominic Leone in your bullpen, who? And so, yeah. But look at Brody Van Wagenen. Remember in July when the Mets went like a 6-game losing streak? What did he do? He went in the clubhouse and he threw a chair and he went off on everyone. Mets won their next 16 out of 17 games. Or 15 out of 16, my apologies. Tell you, light a fire under these guys. You need to. Alyssa says, at what point does Buck recognize the need to play small ball in a game in which the Mets are not hitting? Both Lindor and Nimmo reached first. Neither of them attempted to steal, which these days has an 80% chance of stealing. And I agree. And I'm not very big on the small ball approach, but I think there are the situations where it is needed. When your offense is struggling to hit, you need to just play fundamental baseball. Just put the bat on the ball, pass the baton, take pitches. And we see it. This team loves, and we saw at that game, how many first pitches did they swing at? A lot. Take a fucking pitch when you are struggling. Captain Morgan says the New York Mets are falling apart. I mean, yeah, that's kind of been the story for the past month. Trey says Mets need these rumors of David Stearns coming to be true. Yeah, I mean, David Stearns is a guy that I am very fond of. Obviously, I prefer him much over Billy Epler. David Stearns is a very well-respected guy. Obviously, if David Stearns comes in, he'd be the president of baseball operations, not the GM. He is very friendly and on good terms with Billy Epler, so I don't really see a world where David Stearns comes in as the president of operations and then fires Billy Epler. I don't really see that as a possibility. It's like I don't think he'd come in, fire him, and then double take his job where he's the president of ops and the GM, if anyone would want to hire someone. But yeah, David Stearns is a very well-respected guy, very intelligent. And, you look at what he's done in Milwaukee. And, yeah, I mean, they've never won a World Series with him. They do have 4 playoff appearances with him. But the fact is that, you could argue the Brewers are a team that doesn't financially have the funds, and they are, to an extent, a Moneyball team. And you could look at what David Stearns has done with, the limited amount of funds that he has. He's a guy that was responsible for acquiring Yelich, guys like Freddie Peralta. Obviously, 2015, yeah, that was his first, I think, year around. He was the guy. Remember the Carlos Gomez and Zach Wheeler trade? Yeah, he was the guy that wanted Zach Wheeler. So the scouting department is there. The analytics are there. And imagine him spending money. Where, if you look at a guy like Billy Epler, I mean, when he was in, when he was in Anaheim, he just, he never, what was his only success? Acquiring Ohtani. Otherwise, they had, 5 losing seasons with arguably 2 of the best players in baseball. So, yeah, I think David Stearns would be an interesting candidate. Obviously, I think if the Mets were able to go after him last year, I think they would have gone after him over Epler or 2 years ago. But obviously, with the contract with Milwaukee, Cohen and them couldn't really intervene. Beatles, what's going on? He says, Beatles Space Dragon says, this 2023 team has been very frustrating to watch. Fingers crossed they could turn it around. Yeah, I mean, like I said, looking at this Mets team, this is a team who historically has always done great in the first half and then kind of collapse in the second half. And, I was telling people, I was like, well, maybe this is the year where it's the other way around. I could talk about the 2019 Nationals, 2021 Braves, 2022 Phillies and Braves. But, those are different teams. But it's possible. Anything could happen. 2022 is so entertaining. Shocked Buck has stuck with Vogelbach as long as he has. One of the most dimensional players I've ever seen. Takes a lot of pitches. Yeah, and Beatles Space Dragon, and I think that's an interesting thing to bring up with Buck Showalter is you look at it in the Pittsburgh series, he didn't play him at all. And I think it comes to the point where I don't really know what Buck Showalter's fascination is with the veterans. I don't know if something I don't know what he has against Vientos, point blank simple. Obviously, I think many people in this chat and part of this fan base would much rather see a guy like Mark Vientos get the starts over Vogelbach. Vogelbach is the most useless player in baseball. He poses no threat at the plate. He doesn't swing the bat. And you could argue, his OBP is pretty good. Okay. He gets on base. Tell me, he's not a threat. He's a station-to-station guy, and he's a liability on the base paths. He doesn't play a position. He cannot hit left-handed pitching. So what's special about him? What does he offer? Nothing. He swings the bat like once every 3 plate appearances. No power, and that's what you signed him for. He doesn't pull the ball. He's useless. He offers nothing. I'd rather Vientos go out there and strike out 3 times. Have him swing the bat at least. If Vogelbach's going to take 3 pitches, right down the knees, what's the point? And, yeah, Mark Vientos, everyone's on the same page. I think everyone on this team wants to see Mark Vientos get the playing time, and I don't really know why Buck Showalter just doesn't even bother starting him. I don't know what Buck Showalter has against Mark Vientos. I don't know if he beat him up or something, but Showalter just doesn't like Vientos for some odd reason, and he loves playing his veterans. He would much rather, I guarantee if he was him, he'd rather play Escobar and Vogelbach than Beatty and Vientos. But, right now, I really don't know why he just doesn't play Vientos. And it comes to the point where send Vientos back down because Mark Vientos is a guy who is still developing. I think right now, if this team was winning and not struggling, Vientos would still be in AAA. And I think right now, why waste him? Why are you going to let a guy who's still developing rot on the bench? He's playing, once a week, and he's coming into pitch hit twice a week? You can't develop like that. Send him back down to AAA and let him play every day. I'd rather that than have him rot on the bench. And, honestly, and, I hate to say it, everyone wants Mauricio, but, what? People are going to think Mauricio is going to get playing time too? What position would you put him in? Would you have him as the DH spot? Okay. So, what? Then you're going to send out Vientos, call up Mauricio, and then, what is that going to do? And, Vientos doesn't have the best stats right now, but, how can you perform when you're a guy that's developing and rotting on the bench? Look at guys like Alvarez. Look at guys like Beatty. They struggled when they first got called up. It took them about 2 weeks, 3 weeks to settle in. But Vientos has only played a week's worth of games in total. So, yeah, it's very disappointing. Alvaro says, hello, Hayden. Did you expect the Mets to be in the situation they are now? How could this team change so much from last season to you, Mr. Grom? So, yeah, Alvaro, what's going on? So kind of just breaking down what you said. Did I expect the Mets to be in the situation? Absolutely not. I don't think any Mets fan expected them to be 31-35 right now. I don't think anyone expected this offense to be the way they are. Everyone is underperforming with the exclusion of Nimmo, Alonso, and Alvarez. I don't think any Met fan projected Lindor to be this bad, McNeil to be this bad, Canna, Marte, Vogelbach, Escobar, whoever else. This pitching staff. I don't think any Mets fan expected Verlander to be getting booed constantly. I think the only guys that I would say Senga also is kind of overachieved. I would say really the only 3-4 guys that have overachieved their projections are Alonso, with the exclusion of the average. Alonso, Nimmo, Alvarez, and I'd say Kodai Senga. You know, the walks, I guess, with Senga were a little bit kind of a concern. Obviously, we know with the adjustment of the baseball, the grip, you know, the Nippon League to the MLB, different baseballs, different grips, adjustments. Sure, but a little bit better than I expected, to be honest. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone expected the Mets to be in this situation. How could this change? Yeah, and I mean, how did they change? You know, in terms of roster, they really didn't. This is the same lineup as last year. I mean, minus Alvarez, Beatty, and Vientos getting the playing time as much, but this is the same lineup as last year. The only, free agents you brought in from the outside were Tommy Pham, and I mean, that's not your big bat of the offseason. You kidding me? That's it's a joke. And I don't think the offense is much of the concern. I just think it's the pitching. And I think right now, last year, the Mets had arguably, I'd say when healthy, they had the best rotation, maybe number 2 or 3 best rotation in baseball. Guys like DeGrom and Scherzer, great 1-2 punch. Say what you want about Bassett, but Bassett was very reliable and very durable. You threw him out there every 5th day, 6-7 innings, 3 runs. You know what you're going to get out of him. Sub 350 ERA type guy, average pitcher. Say what you want about Walker, but you see went out there every 5th day and high 3, low 4 ERA. McGill was great last year. Peterson was great last year. The bullpen was great last year. And I think that's really where this team really changed. I don't think it's much the offense. I think it's obviously the pitching. And I mean, you see it when you're losing games by scoring 10 runs. I mean, what you want your offense to score 20 runs? Yes, I think this team is very bipolar when it comes to what's consistent at the right time. And I think in the beginning of the season, I think the offense was a concern. The first National Series, the first Brave Series, sure. But, now I really just think it's solely the pitching. And you saw that. I mean, the Brave Series was the pitching 1-2-3, no doubt. Same for the first game of the Pirates. So, and you saw a lot last year. 2022 Mets won a lot of games. 1-0, 2-1, 3-1, 3-2. So, when people say, "Oh, it's this lineup." Are you sure? Watch a lot of highlights from last year. Go back. And yeah, I mean, this team just changed. I mean, the lineup is the same. It's just everyone's underperforming in the lineup with the exclusion of Alonso, Alvarez, and Nimmo. And they need to get hot. And the pitching, it's the pitching that's pretty much changed. That's really what it is. And do I miss DeGrom? Yeah, sure. But I mean, what is he doing in Texas now? Unfortunately, DeGrom got Tommy John surgery, and I hate to say it, but it's something I predicted. I mean, I literally said in April and in March and February, DeGrom's going to pitch great in April and go on the IL in May and not pitch the rest of the season. I didn't say Tommy John, but that's what we're seeing now. Dion, what's going on? He says, will Brandon Nimmo win a Gold Glove this season? Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely crazy. Brandon Nimmo, who, was one of the worst defensive players in baseball like 4 or 5 years ago, is now one of the best in baseball. Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who is great defensively, very aware, very alert, very athletic, very mobile, and very speedy in center field. And yeah, I think right now he's definitely deserving and should get a Gold Glove. He is a Gold Glove caliber player. And I'll tell you, I wouldn't really trust anyone else besides him in center field. If it came to making a game-saving catch, he's bailed a lot of guys out this season. He's made a lot of great catches, robbed a lot of home runs. Yeah, a lot of highlight gems. So yeah, I would love to see Nimmo win a Gold Glove. I think he deserves it. Alvaro says, has Lindor lived up to his contract? No. It's tough with Lindor. 341 was 11 years. I think if you look at Lindor's career numbers, even back in Cleveland, I don't even think that shot at 341. I think a big reason the Mets overpaid was because Lindor was not going to come if they didn't. And looking at Lindor, the home runs are there, the RBIs are there. He had 100-plus RBIs last year. He's on pace to do that again this year. Like 26 homers last year, on pace to do that this year. The home runs are great. The RBIs are great. The run creation is great. But the defense is great. you need more than home runs and RBIs. You need a better average. You need a better on-base percentage. You need a better OPS. You know, when I'm sitting here looking at Lindor's career metrics and his best OBP of his career is 352, well, that's what Alonso's essentially had like all 4 or 5 years in his career, and that's a power hitter. So yeah, I mean, I don't think Lindor's worth a 341, but no, I think he definitely serves good value to this team. My view on Lindor: shortstop, defense outstanding. All else is gravy. Yeah, I concur. Seth says Francisco Alvarez is becoming a star in front of our eyes. The future is bright on the offensive side for the Mets years to come. No, absolutely. Yeah, Alvarez is looking great defensively. I mean, the defensive metrics love him. Very alert, very aware. Great when it comes to blocking pitches. Has robbed a lot of guys from balls. Yeah, great defensively. Offensively, good too. So yeah, he's definitely overachieved. Alvaro says, but can Alvarez carry the whole Mets offense? And that's the thing. I mean, you can't rely on 1 or 2 guys to carry the offense. It's a collaborative effort. And that's why I don't like the small ball mentality. Is I don't like relying on 2 guys and Alonso and Lindor to drive in all the runs. You need, it's a team effort. You at least lead, you're 1 through 7. So, if Alvarez and Lindor and I don't know, Marte or, hitting some home runs and hitting for some extra base hits and, hard contact, I think that's a decent enough to carry the offense. Trace is one with the last baby Met joined the party. Mauricio, yeah, I really don't know. I mean, I don't know what the Mets' plan is with Mauricio. We know that there were some rumors that he was going to get called up, and then they said that was BS. And now the other reporters are saying it's not. He is. I really don't know what the plan is with Ronnie Mauricio. I mean, it comes to the point also where it's, you look at Vientos. So what? Mauricio's all of a sudden going to get all this playing time, and Vientos won't. I don't really care about the positioning and the defense. I think that's something you could figure out later on. He probably solely serve as a DH right now with his power and his bat. Great bat speed, great power. But just right now, I just don't really know what the Mets are going to do with Mauricio. I don't know if they're trying to wait him and use him at the trade deadline, trade him or call up. I really couldn't tell you what the Mets' plan is with Mauricio. Is there a world where Vogelbach continues to struggle? They DFA him. They call him Vogel. They call him Mauricio. Possibility. Beetle Space Dragon says Alvarez gives me hope. He absolutely crushes the ball. Haven't seen that much power like that since Jose. Yeah, Canseco in his prime. I agree. Yeah, Alvarez is definitely a great power machine, and you don't see many catchers go out there. I mean, and say, listen, Piazza, great offensively, but defensively he wasn't the best. And I'm not saying Alvarez is better defensively, but you don't see many catchers with great elite defense and is able to have that power. You don't see that, which is crazy. Gio says, I said it once and I'll say it again. This front office needs to start setting the lineups. Buck cannot be trusted. Yeah, I don't really know what the whole lineup. Yeah, I really don't know who's setting the lineups right now. Like I said, I mean, the manager position has obviously changed a lot recently. It's not like you're, Bobby Valentine's when it was back then. But yeah, I don't really know what the Mets' plan is with the lineups, and I don't know if it's Buck. I don't know if it's the analytical team. I don't know if it's a collaborative effort. But yeah, I mean, these lineups are not working. When we would see guys like Alvarez in the 9-hole, he's obviously moved up since then, as he should. But seeing guys like Tommy Pham batting cleanup or leading off, and I don't know, and I don't know if Buck's throwing out these silly dumb lineups to kind of say, hey, Billy Epler, I need help. I can't play Vogelbach. I can't, bat this person cleanup. I need help. And I don't know if that is Buck saying that to Epler, but yeah, the lineups are not looking good. Paul, what's going on? Captain Morgan says, I really like Senga, his passion and discipline. on the mound is superb. Absolutely. I mean, Senga's a very, very hard worker. And I absolutely respect that, no doubt. Haley says Francisco Alvarez is becoming a star in front of our eyes. The future is looking bright. The offense side for the Mets for years to come. Yeah, I mean, Francisco Alvarez, I mean, talk about a career catcher. And, the Mets certainly got him. Obviously, I think the years of struggling with James McCann and Wilson Ramos and all that stuff, I think it essentially could be worth it right now. Alvarez has been phenomenal so far this year, overachieved in every single category. Defensively looks great behind the plate. Like I said, I love the defensive metrics from Alvarez. Framing, blocking, UZR, DRS, OAA, all the defensive metrics love him. Arguably a top 3 catcher in baseball defensively right now, statistically. Offensively, he's looked pretty good. He struggles chasing a little bit, but he's definitely cleaned that up. He's not chasing a lot of pitches outside the zone. Strikeouts are there, sure. OBP is not crazy good, sure. The average is suitable. The OPS is good. The homers are there. The RBIs are there. Really, everything else there from Alvarez is there. So yeah, I'm very satisfied with the results that you've been getting from Francisco Alvarez. I mean, he's a great power bat to this lineup. We know that the Mets have really been struggling and lacking power, this year and last year. And, obviously you're really only getting results from Alonso and Lindor. And obviously Alonso will be on the IL for, the next 2-3 weeks. So now, it comes to the concern of, oh no, well, here comes Alvarez. So Alvarez is definitely a guy that is, and you could already see for a guy who's played 40 games this year, fans love him. I definitely think he's a fan favorite. Eric, what's going on? He says, Hayden, I've been watching all your videos and my broadcasts and like your information. Please keep it up. Appreciate it, Eric. Trey says, for God's sake, stick Vientos DH. Will give you 25 homers. What's there to think about? Nothing. Yeah, Trey, I mean, I can see where you're coming from. I mean, right now we've been seeing the DH position really consists of, really the DH position has kind of been all over this season. I mean, more than last year, we're seeing guys like Canna and Pham and, kind of your fourth outfielder type guys get that spot. Obviously, yeah, Vogelbach is getting more time at the DH spot than he should. But yeah, right now, I think it comes to the point where, we went over Vogelbach. He offers nothing. No power, not a threat on the base, not a threat at the plate, doesn't swing the bat, doesn't pull the ball. I'd rather Vientos go out there, strike out 3 times than Vogelbach take, strike 3 right down the knees. There's no point. So, yeah, we're going to have to see how that goes. But yeah. CP, New York Sports Pod, what's going on? Chris, appreciate you tuning in. He says, gotta at least split the series. What's up, Hayden? Yeah, I know, man. I agree. Chris, right now, you need to split the series. If you go 0-2, I mean, I think his team has already hit rock bottom. And, listen, if someone's going to sit here and say, well, 31-35 is good for rock bottom, well, for what this team payroll is, for the guys you have, the situation you're in, yeah. I mean, you get swept in Atlanta, and tell you that Albies home run, walk off. I mean, that just ripped through everyone. Take 1 of 3 against Pittsburgh. I mean, when was the last time this team won a homestand? Or, a away stand, homestand series? What, the Rays and Guardians? And that was mid-May. And, or on June 13th. Get it together is really all I say. But, yeah, with that said, probably going to get ready to call it a stream here as we are almost towards the hour mark. I really do appreciate everyone for tuning in to today's stream as always. Yeah, I mean, like I said, things are going very rough for this New York Mets team right now. I mean, you really hope that they can try and turn it around. But yeah, we're really going to have to see how things go. I know expectations are not there. The morale is not there. The clubhouse, it hasn't been looking very, positive lately. And I don't blame anyone. This team is not playing good baseball. Their pitching's been horrible. The team has been inconsistent. And point is, they're not winning games. Heck, they're not even winning series. So, it's very hard. And, listen, people can come on here and say, oh, well, it's early, you know, but I'm not going to sit here and continue giving, deadlines for when to start panicking. This team has hit rock bottom, and it is panic time. You start to get worried. I said in May, give it to Memorial Day. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, give it to 4th of July now. Oh, give it to the deadline. No. I understand that, extra playoffs, it's closer. The NL is kind of crappier this year, but, I'm not going to sit here and act like everything's fine when it's not. I'm not going to come on here and BS you guys and say, oh, well, the expected stats and, on paper. No. Baseball's a result-oriented game. And the only thing that matters is the results. And we are not seeing those results. So, yeah, right now the Mets are not playing very well. It is what it is. There's plenty of more games to go. Trying to find good vibes, positive vibes. Mets, Yankees play a 2-game set starting tonight and tomorrow. Scherzer and Verlander on the bump. But, yeah, you need to win at least one of the 2 games. If you go 0-2, which I think they will, you're going to, it's very hard to find and be positive and optimistic when you're 4 games under 500. If you're at 500 or a game or 2 over, okay. But, So, we're really just going to have to see how things go. Hopefully a sense of urgency will be shown. Accountability will continue to be exemplified. But, that's really all I got in today's stream. Appreciate everyone for tuning into today's stream as always. Please, everyone, smash that like button. Turn on those post notifications. Tell your friends about this channel. Otherwise, that's really all I got in today's stream. Smash that like button instead. Any comments, questions, concerns, feel free to drop them in the comment section below. If you're rewatching this on replay, thank you for sticking for the hour mark. Please go out there. Please win a series. I don't want to sit out here and be all bummed and depressed and waiting for football to start. Please just win a game. Till next time, baseball fans. See ya.